Thanks everyone for joining us for the ANA eLearning Academy. We're so excited to roll this new program out. Thanks to all of our instructors that have put in all the time for this presentation. Summer seminars normally about 22 class hours, and the instructors have brought it down to 2 hours. It's a lot of work, so we thank you for that. We have put on a lot of new e-learning classes onto our website, so if you haven't gotten on in the last few weeks, I recommend you getting on there. We have a few more the rest of this week, a couple the rest of the month, a lot of them in August, and going on from there. So definitely check that out. If you come up with questions during this presentation, please either use the Q&A feature or the chat feature here in Zoom to send the questions. They'll come to me and then I'll share them with the presenters at the end of the presentation. If we get more questions that come in that we can't answer in the time that we have here, I'll send them to the presenters and they will answer them, and I'll get them out to everybody. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll be sending out a survey here through Zoom. If you will answer that, it'll help us to improve our Zoom meetings and the presenters of what they need to improve for the next time. So now I would like to turn it over to Michael Fay and John Baumgart, and they're going to teach on collecting and investing Morgan dollars, a comprehensive approach. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. So welcome everybody to Collecting and Investing in Morgan Dollars. It's class that we've been teaching in Colorado Springs for several years now. It's Morgan dollars are one of the most popular U.S. type coins, and this is your opportunity to learn a little bit more about them. We have condensed this class from 22 hours down to 2. It makes it kind of hard to do all the stuff we cover in the classroom, and of course we also can't pass around coins. But we hope that you'll enjoy what we presented today. We'll try and increase your knowledge about collecting and investing in Morgan dollars, increase your confidence in buying and selling, and help you enjoy the hobby some more. So what we're going to talk about today is basically some introduction and background information about the Morgan dollar, how to grade them, introduction how to grade them, both circulated and mint state coins, talk a little about prooflike coins, tone coins, buying and selling strategies and tools. We're going to go into varieties a little bit, and then we'll talk at the end a little bit about errors, patterns, and counterfeits. So first, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is John Baumgart. I'm past president of the Society of Silver Dollar Collectors, the SSDC. I run Variety Slattering Service, where I do attributions for people, not only Morgan dollars, but other types as well. I'm the editor of the SSDC's newsletter, the VAM-E. I've developed the VAM attribution wizard software with Jeff Oxman. I've been a silver dollar collector for a long time. Recipient of the SSDC VAM Master Award. I'm also a numismatic photographer. Almost all the pictures that you'll see in this presentation of coins are ones I've taken. And in case I did have some time left over, my day job is as a software engineer. And I've been a member of the ANA since 1995.
Hi, my name is Michael Fay. I'm co-author of the Top 100 Morgan Dollar Varieties, the VAM Keys. I've been a former president of Society of Silver Dollar Collectors. I've been a governor of the ANA, recipient of the SSDC VAM Master Award, founder of that award actually, and a National Silver Dollar Roundtable Presidential Award. I've been collecting for a pretty long time, and I've been a member since 1964 when I was a youngster.
So we'll start with the introduction of the Morgan dollar and kind of how it came to be. It was originally authorized by the Bland-Allison Act in 1878, and President Hayes vetoed that act, and Congress overrode his veto, and it required the Treasury to coin $2 to $4 million a month in silver dollars. 12 years later, in 1890, there was this term Silver Purchase Act, which required the Treasury to purchase a lot more silver per month. And of course, what happened was that people, they purchased silver and paid out in notes, and people cashed in those notes for gold. It drove all the gold out of the Treasury and caused the economic panic of 1893. So that act went away. And then later in 1918, the Pittman Act authorized the melting of about 270 million coins into bullion, which was then sold to the British. And then it was to be replenished by buying more silver from the miners and at a slightly inflated price over the market value, and coin those into silver dollars. So a lot of the Morgan dollars come from subsidizing the mining industry.
Okay, so this is the anatomy of a silver dollar. This is the obverse. And you can see there's lots of definitions. This is really meant so that we can communicate among one another. For example, if you look at the date down at the very center bottom, and you go to the right, you see star 1, star 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The motto, as you look around the coin counterclockwise, stars again, you see Miss Liberty, the Liberty's headband, you see the cotton leaves, the cotton bowls, Miss Liberty's eye, her nose, mouth, chin, the V of her neck, where we see a lot of die clashing in that area. But again, this is just presented so very quickly. In class, we spent a lot more time. It's presented so that you know that there's a way for us to communicate among one another when we see something different that's not normal about the silver dollar obverse.
And reverse, same story. We have terms we use for everything you see on reverse again, so we can communicate with each other. It's also good for doing searches, having common terms to look up. One of the things that throws people at first, especially if they've collected bust or seated coins, is that the wing on the left side of the coin is the eagle's right wing, and the wing on the right side of the coin is the eagle's left wing. Likewise for the legs and the feet. But the wreath is, the left wreath is on the left side of the coin, the right wreath is on the right side of the coin. But we do again have names for everything that's you see on the reverse so that we can again communicate with each other about what we see on coins. So a lot of different people are into Morgan dollars. We have the collectors are into traditional date and mint collections usually, as that's how they get started. They can also collect as type collectors, maybe just buy 1 or 2 coins for a type collection. There's collectors that are specializing even further into things like varieties, prooflike coins, or heirs. You can even make a special collection if you have a budget that constrains you because it's disposable income if you're a collector. You can have a collection that's just 1 coin per year, 1 coin per mint, maybe just a handful of really neat varieties you like. Anything you want to make up a collection. Don't feel that you have to be driven by an album or a registry makeup or anything like that, because you're trying to have fun doing this. Enjoy your coins, enjoy the hobby, and the collector is mostly concerned with doing this with disposable income and not going over a modest budget.
The collector is one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is the investor who seeks appreciation potential, looks to identify undervalued or undergraded coins, tries to understand where to sell coins profitably. Their goal in general is to make money, and the right coins can give you huge returns. Most of us are not either collectors or investors, but a blend of two. Nobody wants to buy a coin and lose money. People like to buy coins and know they get good value. And I can tell you just from personal experience, there are many ways to make a lot of money in this business, many ways. And finding the right coin, searching is fun, and at the same time could be extremely profitable. Next slide.
So yeah, as Michael was saying, most people are in the category of being a hybrid of a collector and investor. Collectors like making money, and investors aren't going to get into coins without having some sort of interest in building some sort of collection.
Okay, so there are lots of resources or books, materials out there that are available to learn, such as the Van Allen Malice book, the Big Van book. I just happen to have a copy. This is what it looks like. It's very thick, a lot of good reading, a lot of great information. The Whitman Red Book of Coins, this book, again, more generalized, a lot of good information. And then a book that I wrote many years ago, 1997, with Jeff Oxman, the little top 100 guy that you can put in your pocket, go to a show, look at pictures, and compare whether you've cherry-picked a rare die variety. There are many books in the A&A library you can take out as an A&A member. It only costs you mailing. And many self-published books. One great book, we highly recommend, The Wonders of Morgan Dollars by Leroy Van Allen. He's got lots of these monographs, we call them, that you can buy directly from him. And there's lots of other books on various dates, studies of particular dates.
So one of the first topics we'll go into then is grading. So it's critical to really know how to grade to determine the value of your coin. Because at the end of the day, you're spending money on something, you want to make sure you got a good deal. You have to know how to grade reasonably well because the third-party graders aren't infallible. Their job is to give to take all these attributes of what you see in a coin and distill it down to one number, which may not be descriptive enough to tell you if it's a really nice coin or not, and it may not always be, in agreement with what everybody else thinks about a coin. Circulated coins are always graded by wear progression and a little bit by eye appeal, but the wear is almost all of the grade on a circulated coin. Mint state coins are graded mostly by surface preservation, which includes a lot of other things of how well the luster is holding up, and we'll go into that. So in order to grade coins well, you need to have some standard equipment. You need to have a light source, something like you see here, a single bulb is what I like to use. You want magnification, but not a lot of magnification. First thing I do when I'm picking up a coin, take a look at it, is I'm just looking at it this way, tilting around the light, see how the luster looks, flip it over, check the luster and see for wear. If I need magnification, if something catches my eye, that's when I'll pull out, a 3x glass, or at last resort, a loop, and look for something like, is there a scratch there, or what am I seeing that's catching my eye? But the loop is the last thing you want to pick up when you're grading a coin. And another important thing when you're grading is that you use your tools, your light and magnification, consistently. So if you're grading a coin under a light like you see on the slide here, and then you try and grade that same coin in a parking lot on a sunny day, you're going to wonder where did this coin come from? It doesn't look anything like it did on that light. Those are extremes, but you also can get variations if you go from a single bulb to a fluorescent tube to the sodium lights and a coarse floor. All sorts of lights can really affect how you perceive the grade. So it's important to be kind of consistent with how you're looking at graded coins.
So it was Bill Feva who quoted the great Ken Brissett, editor of the Red Book, who said, "Grading is easy. All you need is a good eye, you need a good light source, and you need the experience of tens of thousands of coins." So grading is easy once you do a lot of it. In our class, we spend a whole day on grading. We grade circulated coins, we grade mint state coins. You can't grade coins from one single picture. We're going to try to do it here to show you how we think. But bottom line is you got to tilt and twirl a coin under a light, as John was saying, to really see different things. On circulated coins, we're looking at the wear progression. We're looking at the hair, the feathers, how much wear is done on both sides, the obverse and reverse, the depth of the denticles. There are some good resources out there, such as the A&A Grading Guide. PCGS has a photo grade app. Again, it just takes a lot of practice, and you can get really good. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. From 1 to 58 are circulated coins. From 60 to 70, 10 grades are mint state coins. This is an example of coins graded from good 6 all the way up to almost uncirculated 50, AU 50. And you can see as you go from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, both on the obverse and the reverse, you get more detail. For example, on the good 6 coin is wear, especially on the reverse. If you look at the rims, there's a lot of wear going right into the denticles on the rims. And if you go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, AU 50, you can actually see some mint luster in that coin. And you can see all the details and very, very little wear. So again, it takes a lot of practice to do this, and you get good at it over time. Next slide.
So uncirculated coins are a little more difficult, and it's less objective too. You can't just look at a wear chart to look at uncirculated coins and grade them. There's 4 components to how to grade uncirculated coins, and surface preservation is one of them, and that's what I mentioned earlier. That talks to basically how well was the surface of the coin preserved from when it was struck to when you see it now. They get all banged up, riding around in the Wild West on a stagecoach in bags? Or was it, did it get lucky and was sitting on top of the pile and put in a bag and went into a bank vault for 100 years and just sat there and nothing ever came in contact with it from above, and it graded very high? But other components that are important are luster. So how flashy is the coin? How well does it really reflect the light back to you? And the strike also. How well are the details struck up on the coin? There are some coins that they're uncirculated, and if you look at a wear chart, you think they're extra fine because they have missing detail, but that detail is because the coin wasn't struck well. And then eye appeal is even more subjective. It's kind of the first thing I notice when I pick up a coin. I take a look at it and I think to myself, do I like this coin? And if the answer is no, I put it down and go to the next one. Saves me time looking for coins I like. If I like it, then I finish going through, okay, how do I like it? Do I agree with the grade? How would much money would I spend on this? So eye appeal is that little intangible thing that really kind of drives whether someone likes a coin, and it affects the grade as well. And one of the important things to know when you're grading any series is that you really need to know that series well and what the different attributes of different dates and mints are for that series. Some coins come poorly struck, some come well struck, some come with dead luster, some come with flashy luster all the time. So this chart here is a sample of how you can have good surface preservation, good luster, good strike, good eye appeal for some dates and mints, and really bad surface preservation, luster and strike, eye appeal for others. You'll notice that the famous common high grade Morgans, the 81S and 80S, those are good for everything. They always become really nice. They come with really flashy luster, solid strike, and they're really attractive. Whereas coins like the 1901P has bad luster and bad eye appeal. It's one of the ugliest Morgan dollars, probably only to be outdone by the 21S, which has lousy luster and lousy detail. I don't know why we didn't put it there, but yeah, 21S is one of the ugliest Morgan dollars. But if you find one that's not ugly, that's a special coin.
Especially if it's proof-like. All right, so we're looking at uncirculated coins now. We're going to take a look at some one-dimensional pictures. Again, you can't grade coins by a picture. If you go to eBay and you're buying coins, you can't grade coins by a picture. You have to tilt and twirl them radically under a light to see all the marks. Marks will show up as you tilt and twirl them. So we're looking at mint state 6061s. We call these the unloved uncirculated coins. Coins are rarely graded 60. Very rare that grading services will grade 60. Has to be a really, really ugly coin, yet mint state. You more often see 61s. They tend to like to give the 61 grade out. They have heavy marks or hairlines on the surface. Their luster is either average or below average. Their strike, again, typical to weak, like the O mint coins, New Orleans mint coins tend to be weak. And their eye appeal is generally unattractive. So this is an example of an MS-60 coin, and I'm looking at this coin. The first thing I notice is a big long mark on the obverse down her jaw. I see lots of little tiny marks on the cheek, lots of marks in the field outside the eye, all the way down. On the reverse, I see lots of marks as well. This is a pretty ugly looking coin. The luster is maybe average to below average. Strike is not so bad, but this coin can't garner anything beyond the 60, 61 because it's just pretty marked up, pretty bad marked. Okay, this is MS-61. Again, hard to distinguish between the last one, but there are less marks, no major marks, but lots of little tiny marks on the prime focal areas, Miss Liberty's chin, and the fields out in front of the eye all the way down to the neck. It's got a little bit of ugly toning on the upper reverse, but again, a lot of little marks. Reverse tends to be a little bit nicer than the obverse, but the obverse is going to carry the grade on this coin, and it's a pretty ugly 61.
And as Michael was saying, the obverse will carry the grade on all coins. That's a general rule of thumb. And unfortunately for Morgan dollars, the reverse tends to look nicer than the obverse. So you see coins that are a 62, 63 on the obverse, and you look at, flip it over and it looks like a 65, and you say, oh, why couldn't the obverse look like this? It's just the design of the coin is such that the obverse picked up marks and stuff much easier than the reverse did. So the average uncirculated coin is 62 to 64, typical uncirculated coins. Not so many heavy marks in the surfaces. The luster will be typical for the date. So an 80S with really bad luster is not typical, but a 1901P with bad luster is typical. There'll be some frostiness. There'll be a typical strike for the date. So 86O can be weak, and 80S will be strong, and the eye appeal will be average. You'll take that first impression will be, well, it's okay. It's not ugly, but it's not, doesn't knock me out.
Okay, so this is an MS62 coin. First look, it doesn't look so bad. It looks like some original peripheral toning, gold toning. Doesn't look so bad. Strike doesn't look so bad. I look on the obverse, and first thing I notice on her cheek, Miss Liberty's cheek, is a whole lot of marks, all the way down to the neck as well. And then out in the field, I see a little bit of what looks like a halo effect, which reminds me of 58 coins. I mean, if I look really closely at this coin under a light, tilt and twirled it with a magnification, maybe I find it's a 58 coin, but I'm saying this is below average. It's got too many marks to make it anywhere higher than a 62. Strike is fine. Luster, a little bit below average, maybe average, but it's a 62 coin. Good example.
Here's another MS62 that's got, if you compare it with the previous one, it's got a lot better strike and better luster, but it looks like it's been hit with some birdshot, especially on the reverse here. All these heavy reed marks from other coins over there in the prime focal areas. So the prime focal areas are the parts that, where your eye catches defects first, and you really want to see that looking nice. So it's unfortunate to have heavy marks there that might not be such a big deal if they were hidden in the hair or somewhere you don't see them as well. But yeah, luster's good, strike's good, surface is not so good. Eye appeal is, yeah, okay, but it's MS62.
So first thing I look at a coin, I kind of take the whole thing in. I get eye appeal. And then the last thing I do is look again at eye appeal. Looking at this coin, it's got nice eye appeal. It's not unattractive. It's got some original toning that doesn't bother me in the obverse upper right field and on the reverse corresponding area. Reverse looks nice. Fields look pretty clean. I look at the obverse, very few marks, a little bit of chatter on the cheek and a little bit of chatter out in the field next to the stars. Other than that, the coin's got good luster, good strike, and it's typically an average, maybe a 63 plus even. It's just a nice average coin.
Okay, here's another MS63 coin. If you get into the habit of counting bag marks on the cheek and assigning a grade that way, you'll grade this too high, you'll pay too much money for it, and then you realize when someone says, well, it's only got average luster and not a very good strike, you see all this bad strike over the ear, kind of a flat eagle's breast. That's when you'll realize you paid too much money for it, if you paid 64 money for it, example. So it's got above average surface preservation, but the other stuff, not so good. Poor strike and mediocre luster, average eye appeal. So it grades a 63.
Okay, so now we're looking at a nicer coin, 64 grade. Again, eye appeal is pretty good. I look at the reverse, and I really don't see much. A little bit of chatter below and in God we trust. No real toning to speak of. Good strike, nice luster. The obverse, again, nice original toning. Newbies tend to like white coins. Us old-time collectors tend to like originality. We like to see a little bit of toning. It tells us the coin wasn't messed with, wasn't dipped out. I'm seeing very little marks on the cheek in the prime focal area. Fields look awfully clean. I mean, this is a nice 64 coin, maybe a 64 plus. I'm not sure what that is below the N of unum. Could be a die crack. And in general, they won't really take take off anything for die cracks unless they're really unsightly, but they shouldn't because it's part of the original coin. Next slide.
Here's another MS64, and again, the cheek is very clean. It's got a good strike, but the luster and eye appeal is kind of killing it from being a higher grade. This might be a coin that someone would crack out, dip, and try and get a 65 on because it is very clean coin. But as it is, it's kind of dead luster. The toning doesn't add anything to it. It adds some haze, so it kind of detracts a little bit. But other than that, it fits the bill of a 64. It's got some above average traits and some that don't quite make it.
This is where having experience and a good eye and having seen a lot of coins comes into play. I look at this coin and I see the possibility of a 65, which for a 90S is a big jump in price. So I look at it and say, well, can I see through the toning and see the luster underneath? If I dip this coin in thiourea or jewel luster, would it look much nicer? And might it grade the next grade up, 65? And if so, would I take a chance on buying it for X amount in the hopes that I can, get it into a 5 holder and sell it for a whole lot more? Those are decisions that happen all the time among dealers and among knowledgeable collectors and investors. Next slide. Okay, so now we're talking about looking at gem coins. What's a gem coin look? Gem grade is 65 and up. So we're looking now at the 65 to 66 grades. Very few bag marks, very light marks, above average luster, a frosty, creamy look, full strike, which is above average for the day, and the eye appeal has got to be above average, very attractive. I mean, this is not magic. Again, with experience, once you see it, you know it, and you take your shot with it if it's a raw coin. If it's in a holder and it says 65, make sure it's a 65, or else don't buy it. If it doesn't look the right grade, then maybe it was overgraded. If it's in a 65 holder and looks like a 6, buy it. Maybe you can get it into the next grade up. Grading services have relaxed a little bit over time, and you can make a lot of money by upgrading coins. Let's take a look. So this is a 65, typical 65. Looking at the reverse real quick, I don't see any problems. Tiny, tiny little mark where John is pointing with the arrow. I look on the obverse, very little, few marks on the obverse. Again, enough so we can call it a 5. The luster is not beaming. It's a clean coin. Kind of reminds me of that 64 we saw before a little bit. So, I mean, this is an average 65 coin.
The strike is very good for 19020 also. Yeah. So here's another 65, 1878S. This one has, the luster has a little more punch to it. The obverse, you could even say, is almost like a semi-proof-like. Very good strike, very few marks on the cheek. You start to get that creamy look on the surface of the cheek. The fields are very clean. There's one moderate mark right there, but really other than that, it's a very clean coin. Good eye appeal, good strike. It fits the bill of a 65.
Okay, so now we're looking at a 66 coin, and again, my first impression is, wow, great luster on the coin. Again, can't grade these from a picture, but we're doing it now so we can try to share some knowledge. Great luster on the coin. Toning is original on the coin. Doesn't look like it's been dipped or played with. I look at the obverse. I see, again, very clean fields, good strike. Little bit of right next to the nose or below the eye. Little bit of stuff going on, but it's still an extremely clean coin. 82Ss tend to come that way. They can be magnificent, and this is a Gem Plus coin.
So this is an 85P. The obverse is super clean. The fields, there's very few marks in them at all. Really on the cheek, there's almost nothing either. There's a big expanse here where there's no marks, and you just get nothing but this big look at the luster of the coin, uninterrupted by any bag marks. The reverse has a few more marks on it, but fortunately in this case, the obverse carries the grade at any given coin. The reverse could hold it back. Maybe it would be a 6+ if this didn't have some of these marks on it, but it's not going to improve the grade. This is, yeah, great eye appeal, especially on the obverse, great luster, great strike. The surface preservation is also great.
Okay, we get into the rock stars from 67 to 69. Very few Morgans are graded 69, not that many in 68. 67 is a very nice grade to have. The surfaces are nearly flawless, above average luster, frosty, creamy look, full strike, stunning eye appeal. It's got it all. This is what you want. This is what you're looking for. Next slide. So you can see this coin. I mean, first thing I look at, I go, wow, what a beauty. I love that original luster on the coin. I love the toning on the coin. Very few marks. I really don't see anything. I mean, everything I look at this coin just looks like it was as it was intended to be. Great strike, great luster, very little bad marks, if any. I mean, you probably could see them if you tilted and twirled the coin, but very few. I mean, this is a gem plus coin. Beautiful coin.
This is one of the few MS68 graded coins, the 82S. This coin is absolutely stunning. I mean, I saw it in person, and one photo just can't do it justice. The fields are absolutely clean. The cheek is super clean. There's no marks on it anywhere. Maybe little ones you're going to see under magnification if you take the time to look. But you pick this thing up, and it just kind of knocks your socks off. And that's what an MS68 should do. It is booming luster, punches you in the face, super sharp strike. Looks like it was almost made right away, preserved, so that it would still look like this 140 years later. They're rare in this grade.
Semi-PL too, John.
This is almost a proof-like coin too.
Yeah.
And
it's got cameo appearance.
Yeah, in 82S is one of those years where it's 80S, 81S, 82S tend to be really attractive coins. So if on top of that you have one that's in really high grade, then you have, this is like an ultimate type coin for Morgan dollar. If you only want to have one Morgan dollar and you got the money to spend on it, look into something that's a condition rarity like this, because you're going to enjoy it. Everybody else that lines up to buy it afterwards is going to want to enjoy it as well. 82S can have really special flashy luster because of the way they polish the dies when they made these. So there's one in between grade that I'd like to talk about a little bit. It's AU58. So AU58 is that grade. It looks kind of like the coin. It should be MS62 or 64. When you pick it up, and you say, "Oh, MS62." But it's got some broken luster. It's got a little bit of wear at the high points. And on the obverse of the Morgan dollar, that's the tip of the bust and the front of the cheek. On the reverse, it's the breast feathers of the eagle and the knuckles of the talons of the feet. And this broken luster, what that manifests itself as a little change in the color of the luster of the coin. And an example, here's a coin that's graded AU58, and if you take a look at it right now, it doesn't really look like it's not uncirculated. But right here and here, there, probably just a little bit of wear that knocks it into that AU58 category and out of what I would say is otherwise MS63 on this coin. So if you have a coin, you're trying to see if it's got that broken luster on it. If you hold the coin up against a white piece of paper and take a look at the reflection of the white paper onto the coin, you'll see where that color change shows up. Right here, there's this darker gray area at the tip of the bust, and here at the front of the cheeks. This is an AU58 coin that at first glance doesn't look that way, but really is. A little bit on the hair too, down here. So the danger of an AU58 coin is that you buy a raw, let's say a 97.0 or 96.0 that someone says is uncirculated, and it turns out to be AU58, and the price spread between AU58 and MS62 is a lot of money, and you want to make sure you can tell the difference between those. And maybe the reason that he's selling it as a raw AU58 is because he doesn't want to sell it as a graded AU58. He wants to sell it as a raw MS62 or 63. So A58, it's often a very nice grade, especially if the uncirculated grades are extremely expensive, because they're attractive coins.
I also look at the cheek area on AU58s, and if there are hairlines in one direction, they tend to grade those 62 or above. I've had 58 coins go to 64, so you can get big jumps in grade. But if the hairlines go in two different directions, not just one direction, they tend to grade those 58. So maybe it came from sliding on a table or from an album from the plastic sliding across Miss Liberty's cheek. Again, I look at the hairlines as well, so another important area to look at for 58s. Can make a lot of money in this area, by the way.
Okay, so Morgan dollars are pretty unique in that they're available as proof-like coins. So the fields are mirrored, and this has to do with the way that they polish the dies before they start striking them. Typically, this indicates very early die stages, but there are instances where older dies that have been in use for a while were removed, repolished, and they still produce proof-like coins, even though the dies are somewhat old. The general rule of thumb for a proof-like coin is that you can sort of read in the fields at a 4-inch depth, so you can read that the mirrors are 4 inches deep. Whereas a deep mirror proof-like coin, you have to see 8 inches deep into the mirrors.
Clearly,
right. So you have to be able to read, 12-point text or a little bigger than that, 8 inches deep. And it has to be both sides of the coin. If it's one-sided, then it doesn't really count. If it's a date that's very rare and it's one-sided, it's worth a little extra because it's a little special, but it doesn't count as being proof-like. There are some dates that are common as proof-likes from all mints, 80S, 83CC, 840, and 87 are all common as proof-like coins. And there are some that are very rare, 940, 960, 1900P, 1901P. 21S, I think there's only 4 proof-likes graded, no deep mirror proof-likes, and they're all ugly. So that's a big variety of what's available as proof-like coins. They prepare the dies differently in 21 than they did the rest of the series. So Leroy Van Allen came up with a little chart here, and these measurements are a little bit off from what we have for today's standards for proof-like. But and you could make up one of these on your own. Just take a piece of paper, draw something out, and see if you can read. Place the coin at one edge and see if you can read 4 inches deep, 2 inches deep, 8 inches deep to see just how deep the mirrors are, and make your own proof-like guide. I think Leroy still has some of these available.
he does.
He does? Okay. And we've handed these out in the class before. One of the souvenirs you get for joining us in Colorado Springs.
Okay, so again, we're looking at a proof-like coin here. Proof-like coins tend to show up bag marks a lot more. Certainly in this one-dimensional picture they do. Tilting and twirling they certainly do, and show up hairlines as well, just like a proof coin might. Looking at this coin, first thing I notice is it's cameo-like, nice original toning. I'm seeing lots of bag marks, very frosty-looking devices. I'm looking at the obverse in the field outside of Miss Liberty's eye. I'm seeing some fairly large marks. This is an 1878. Looks like a 7-tail feather reverses 78 with a parallel arrow feather. Again, nice coin, proof-like, probably not deep mirror proof-like. Again, in a picture, you can't really tell very well, but pictures, the deep mirror proof-like coins tend to show up much darker in terms of the mirrors. Next slide. Yep, and here we go. Here's a deep mirror proof-like coin, full cameo appearance. As you can see, both the reverse and the obverse cameo, which makes it cameo. And the fields look black because they're very reflective. Again, marks show up. I mean, I'm looking at this coin. This coin might be a 64 even. Again, hard to tell in a one-dimensional picture.
I think it is a 64.
It's a 64? Okay. Yeah, and a deep mirror proof-like coin. Now you have to understand when coins are struck, the dies are basined, meaning that they were filed down with emery cloth, and you get very smooth fields. And when the coins are struck metal against metal, it's the planchette in between, you get a rub of metal against the other metal, and it starts to rub that fine, gritty surface off. And you go from deep mirror prooflike, first few hundred strikes on fresh obverse and reverse dies. You go to prooflike, maybe the next 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000 coins are prooflike, and then you start to go to satiny fields, and then ultimately to an orange peel, which is a very late die state. It looks like the peeling of an orange. So that's the progression in terms of mirror surfaces. Okay, one-sided prooflikes don't work. Grading services will not grade them prooflike. And if there are any disruptions in the prooflike field, they won't grade them prooflike. So this coin would be just graded as a straight 1900 coin with a prooflike obverse. Still a nice coin, a PQ coin. The coin looks very clean, might even 5. I mean, certainly they would lift this coin up a bit. It did 5?
Yeah.
So it might, it's just a beautiful looking one-sided prooflike, and certainly worth a premium.
And this is the kind of coin where, you know, NGC has a star designation on their grades. So the star means something is special about it, where maybe it could get a premium for it of some sort. And a one-sided prooflike on a rare date for a prooflike, which like a 1900p is a rare date for prooflike, would like to get a star designation, just because it's something a little bit more special than a normal 1900p and MS65. Okay, so next thing I'll talk about is toning. So silver dollars had a benefit of sitting in mint bags for decades, acquiring toning as the silver reacted with the bags and the environment uninterrupted. And this toning can be attractive, it can be unattractive. And by being attractive or unattractive, it feeds back into the eye appeal component of the grade. So it can raise or lower the grade depending just how attractive or unattractive it is. Toning can be natural, having occurred in mint bags for decades, or being stored in a collector's album for a long time, or artificially hastened by someone wanting to make a coin into a toned coin. In that case, sometimes that's done to hide defects in the coin. So toning will work as a bit of a camouflage to make it harder to see surface imperfections. So it can be kind of a double-edged sword there. You can have attractive toning and then miss the fact that there's a bit of a scratch that's not that attractive somewhere. Toning can give you a huge premium, huge enough where you stop looking at price guides and you're just saying, well, what do you want to get it for? And someone says, I'll give you $500 for that coin. The price guide says 60 bucks. And the toning is so good that the guy just has to have it for $500. Or toning can cause a discount. If it's ugly, dark toning that's real flat, especially if it's almost black toning, close to being environmental damage, someone's not going to really want to pay a premium for that, and they're not even going to want to pay the going rate for one that's untoned. So toning good, toning bad. It can be hard to distinguish natural from artificial toning, and this has to do with how well or how skillfully the artificial toning was applied. And in some cases, it could be just the coin was stored in a hostile environment for a year or two, and that could be considered. Someone could look at it and say, yeah, this looks funny. It looks like artificial toning, and someone else could take a look at it. It looks like it's acceptable, market acceptable toning. We'll call it natural toning. And grading services don't always agree on this. One day you can have them grade a coin and it'll come back questionable color, and then 2 weeks later they'll say it's MS64. So they're not always going to agree on it. They will agree on the ones that are really blatant, and we'll get into a picture of one of those later. So yeah, the natural toning we say is good. It often takes a long time to develop. It's very stable. The color patterns that show up on toned coins are quite predictable. They come in a certain order. You don't see certain colors next to other colors, and there's some colors you never see at all, which all that can be red flags for artificial toning. We have things like bag toning, roll-end toning, so the patterns from what the coin was stored in shows up on the coin. There's an effect called pull-away toning, which I'll illustrate a little bit later, that tends to show up on naturally toned coins. Artificially toned coins can have a wrong color pattern. The toning can be kind of splotchy colored. It looks like a chemical spill all over a coin. That doesn't happen naturally. And the colors may change fast. You may buy it one day, it's pink. Come back a couple weeks from now, it's purple. Good indication that it wasn't, that it was artificially toned.
So toning results from sulfur, which is in paper or in the bag, the mint bags, or in albums. When it comes into contact with oxygen at specific moistures and over time and temperature. So the more heat, the faster the reaction will occur, the toning reaction. It's a micro layer on the surface of the coin, very, very fine micro layer that changes color, reflects light differently, absorbs light differently. So here we're looking at a monster rainbow tone coin, one-sided. The reverse has a little bit of gold toning in the periphery, but when you look at this coin on the obverse, you see lots of different colors, golds, purples, blues, and it's very attractive. This is where coins and art start to merge. You get what looks like a piece of art instead of just a coin. And if you're attracted to this, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, if you like this, then you're willing to pay up for it. And sometimes people will fight over these things because they look so beautiful. And prices can go to the moon, literally 5 or 10 times what a normal price would be. So this is an example of an obverse, one-sided obverse monster rainbow tone coin. So this, we're looking at a monster tone reverse coin. Again, looks a little different. I happen to like this toning better than I did the other one because it just has a nice symmetry to it. See a lot of purples and golds above the eagle on the reverse, and blues and greens, and it's very symmetrical. It is a piece of art. It's beautiful. The obverse, again, very light toning. This might have been sitting in an album with the reverse side up, and it just toned over time from the sulfur coming in from the periphery of the coin over time and temperature.
And for some reason, the coins that are this kind of toning on the reverse don't sell for quite as much as with the same toning around the obverse. So it's that eye appeal again, and where people want to see the toning. They want to see it on the obverse of the coin. And so this would actually sell at a small discount to an identically toned coin where the toning is on the obverse instead of the reverse. So this is a nice rainbow toned coin that illustrates the color progression quite well. If you start at 7 o'clock on the obverse and work your way up to 1 o'clock, this actually transitions through about 15 different colors, and it shows you the order in which the colors appear as a coin tones. So as Michael was saying before, it tones because there's a layer of sulfides that builds up on the surface of the coin that are extremely thin, and it interferes with the way that the light reflects from the surface of the coin. So where the toning starts, right around here, it starts turning this real pale gold color. That's where this layer is about 200 nanometers thick, and it starts interfering with the light coming back to your eye when you're looking at the coin. As it gets thicker and thicker, it goes through these other colors, these really vibrant colors in the middle. These are the real money colors. Those are the ones you want to see all over the coin. And then it eventually gets into some of the darker colors. And when it gets thick enough, it turns into this charcoal black, not attractive colors. It's not going to get any more colorful than that. It's too thick to reflect any meaningful light to you that you're going to like looking at. One of the other things I want to point out is on this coin is if you look around the nooks and crannies of like the cotton leaves and the cotton balls here, and the letters of Liberty, you'll notice, especially if you look at the letters Liberty, LIB, those letters are a different color than the band itself. This is a term that a dealer came up with several years ago called elevation chromatics. And what it means is that the relief of the coin affects the degree of the toning. And much as it protects the coin from wear, it protects the coin from the sulfide buildups there. So the L and the I and the B are these gold and magenta colors from a thinner layer, and the band itself is magenta, purple, and blue from a slightly thicker layer. And that tends to be the way that naturally toned coins look. You'll see you'll see an outline right around Liberty's cap and the hair. And those outlines, in the same way that they're protected from wear, they're protected from toning on a coin that hasn't been worn at all. So you see that on naturally toned coins. On coins that were chemically toned, they tend not to show up that way. So that's one of the tells that is on artificially toned coins. This is some really nice darker tonings. This is a slightly later stage, but still showing colors. It's got deeper blues and greens, but again, you see the little yellows and magentas in these protected areas. And one of the other things I was talking about earlier was pull-away toning being a sign of a naturally toned coin. If you look at the date, and this will occur on any coin that's got some sort of lettering or stuff around the edge of the coin, not just silver dollars, but even 17th century British milled coins, anything that tones, that has lettering around the edge, you'll see this sort of effect where there's a shadow where there's no toning. It's a very crisp shadow of a specific size, and it's consistent from coin to coin. It has to do with the way the metal flowed near the edge of the coin, where it doesn't tone the same. And sometimes some people will mistake that for a double die even. It's so crisp. But it tends not to show up on artificially toned coins.
Okay, so this looks like in-roll rainbow toning. And again, this was a coin that was put in a roll, protected by other coins in the roll, except this was the end of the roll where the crimp was crimped down. And you could see that line of demarcation that took place where it was crimped down. Again, very pretty, lots of different colors, reverse toning. You'll often see one side of beautiful toning, but when you find both sides beautiful toning, boy, you've got something that's even more special and much rarer. So this is an example of end roll toning. You can definitely look at it. You can also see bag toning that has the remnants of the bag on the coin as well. I don't know if we have a slide of that in here or not, but probably not.
This one, a little bit right here. Some of them are very obvious. There's a different weave pattern you see on, but it doesn't have any other than this here.
Okay. Okay, so this is an example of crescent toning. If you can envision coins sitting in a bag or somewhere else, and one of the Morgans was sitting on top of the obverse of this Morgan, it protected that area from toning, and the rest of the area toned. So we call this crescent toning. You can get single crests, double crests, triple crests, all sorts of different combinations. This whole toning issue, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you see it and you like it and it's beautiful to you, then you're going to wind up wanting to get it, and you may wind up bidding against somebody else. If nobody else likes it, then you're going to get it pretty reasonably. If a lot of people are after that same coin because of its beauty, you're going to be competing and paying for it.
Excellent. And crescents can also be very small. They can show up on just the edge of the coin. And even if they have some colors in it, it's not something that people tend to get very excited about because it's just a real small amount of the coin that's toned, and a lot of people won't pay any premium for that at all. So be aware not to, just because a coin has a little bit of toning somewhere, not to be taken in by someone that wants to sell you for double what it really should be going for. Coin that's worth a premium should really kind of knock your socks up when you see it.
Okay, so we're looking here at an example of neutral toning, although I wouldn't call this neutral toning. I like the originality. I like the toning on the periphery. The coin looks like a very clean coin. It's a 1900 looks like a gem coin to me from this one little picture. I happen to like this coin. On the last coin with the crescent toning, I didn't like that. So I would probably take that toning off. I would probably dip the coin in jewel luster and make it look white. And again, I would not recommend anybody do this for the first time without practicing it on coins that are low value, and then washing that coin and neutralizing it in a baking soda solution baking soda solution, just to get rid of all the chemicals on the surface of the coin. Again, neutral toning, I'm okay with this. I like this toning. So beauty in the eye of the beholder.
This another coin that has neutral toning on it. It's again, it's going to be, as Michael said, beauty in the eye of the beholder. Some will really like it, some won't. So it'll average out where it's not going to really affect the eye appeal components of the grade positively or negatively. It's got some kind of pastel, muted, slightly hazy colors in here on both sides. It's not something I would run out and pay any extra money for, but if I saw it and I liked the coin and I wanted it, that would have no problem buying it.
If you saw it in a 4-holder, would you buy it?
If I saw this in a 4-holder, I'd probably buy it. Okay, so you saw all those examples of attractively and neutrally toned coins. This one should kind of make you recoil a little bit because it is an ugly, artificially toned coin. One of the first things that you should notice, the coin is actually not even uncirculated. So it was worn and then chemically treated to make it have these unnaturally bright blue colors together with purple. There's no traces of any magenta or yellow anywhere where there should be, like in here, where we had them on all those other coins. You've got, some of the toning is worn off, or maybe it's smudged off when it was put on. And the coin is probably also clean, so the toning may have been applied to hide the fact that there was some cleaning hairlines or the coin was too shiny or something. So this is a coin where you see that one and you just avoid it, and hope that someone else also avoids it and eventually becomes a part of a dealer's museum or something and you're stuck with it forever, because you do not want this coin.
Yeah, again, it takes a lot of experience to know what looks right and what doesn't look right, and this certainly does not look right to me. So again, it's that experience factor. We spend a lot of time in class looking at coins, looking at toned and artificially toned coins, and looking at one picture here of a few coins is not going to cut it, but you get the idea what we're trying to present.
Yeah, and I mean, Morgan dollars are plentiful enough where you can spend a lot of time looking at coins all day long at auction lots, at dealer tables and stuff. If you're at a show, you can take in a lot of information just by looking at coins over and over again. As I said with the grading section, is that learning how to grade well just takes a little bit of time, good light, nice loop, and 100,000 coins. So you can get a lot of that experience just by looking at coins over and over again. You'll be able to tell the artificially toned ones, and even ones that aren't this bad, from ones that are naturally toned.
Okay, so now we're going to go on to proofs. Proofs are different. They were struck in meant for collectors, well preserved typically. The quality varies with the date. The early ones, the 80, 82, are high quality. Some of the later ones in the late 1888 to 93 can lack some detail. You get great cameos in 96 to 98. And the 02, 04, you hardly see cameos. They're not as attractive. And these are graded differently than coins. These are graded by the amount of cleaning on the coin, which is totally different than a regular coin. These were often issued in boxes with tissue paper. And over time, what would happen is the collector would look at their coin, they would take the tissue paper and they would wipe it over the delicate surfaces of the coin to get dust off, and that would put hairlines in the very delicate proof-like fields. And so that's why you get a lot of lower grade coins in the 60 to 63 coin. And again, they're graded by the amount of hairlines. This is an absolutely beautiful cameo, black and white cameo proof. 1892, just spectacular coin, very deep mirrors. These are struck with extra pressure. They're struck more than once. And it's just it's the art of the coin. It's absolutely beautiful.
Now, see, these are struck actually on a metal press, so it's a press that can strike coins at a much higher pressure than the regular production presses.
Yeah. One other thing, the rims are usually squared away as opposed to rounded on regular coins, and that's one of the ways you can differentiate the proof is by the rims. Okay,
so next section that we have is about buying and selling. Morgan dollars. So you can't build much of a collection without buying them. So we'll try and make you more comfortable with that.
Okay, so you can buy these coins from dealers, from auctions. You can go on eBay, private sales, social media now, on Facebook and Instagram. If you have Nextdoor or Craigslist, I mean, just about anywhere you look, you can find Morgan dollars. They're everywhere, and the good thing is that you can find gems. It's treasure hunting out there. All you got to do is look, and you'll find. And either you find it on date and mint mark, or you find it on Grating, or you find it on varieties, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. Next slide. So the resources that you can use are price guides. There are wholesale price guides. There are retail price guides. You can look at the PCGS and NGC sites. There's free guides. Those are more retail on prices for coins. Coin World is a subscription. You can look in there, and again, more retail pricing. You can also look at the population reports. Very important. We'll get into it in a little more detail, but they tell you how many coins have been certified by grade that are out there. And very important to know that information, to know the supply. You can look at auction histories. I highly recommend Heritage has a great website that's free. Just sign up for it. And you can look up auction prices realized. Stax Bowers, great collections. eBay is another good example for more lower price coins where you can look up what coins are trading for. Don't look up what people are asking. Look up what they actually sell for. You have to go to the advanced section on eBay. It's to the right of the search criteria, and then put in coins that are already sold, and you'll see what they've actually sold for. Please understand that there's roughly a 10% fee between eBay and PayPal that they'll take. So when that coin is sold for X price, subtract 10%. And that's probably about what the value of that coin is. You've got PCGS auction prices, CoinFacts, more sophisticated ways to look up prices for coins. Great resources out there. Use them. Also, population reports. PCGS, NGC, and ANAX produce population reports. They used to print them out. Now they're on the websites. You can search them. Shows the number of coins in each grade, the supply of coins. Doesn't tell you anything about the demand for the coins. Got to be careful because they're not always accurate. Coins have been resubmitted on the rarer coins many times over in some cases, so it's overinflated, the numbers. And in other cases, like some modern coins, people are not going to spend $30 to grade a $20 coin, so they may look like they're really rare, but they're not. But they're great tools to determine relative rarity. This is the thing I want you to take away. When you start looking at population reports, the key information is how rare is that relative to another coin? For example, how rare is a 93S relative to an 81S in MS62? And that's the kind of analysis you need to do because that gives you an idea of relative rarity. Next slide. So this is an example of a population report. It happens to be PCGS. If you look all the way to the left, PCGS assigns numbers to coins. If you look at the first one, you have an $1889, and it tells you in mint state, and you can go all the way down to poor one, all the way up to 58. This happens to be from 60 to 70. This shows you that in MS63, there are 20,000 coins graded, 20,000 plus. Not that rare. But if you look down the next list, you see one in PL, and a small fraction of it has been graded in 63, much rarer in PL. And go down one more and you see dimple, and even rarer are the dimples. So what I do is what's the relative rarity of an 89 in 3 dimple or 4 dimple compared to one that's common in 3 or 4 regular satiny? And then what's the price? How much difference do I have to pay? Is the price justified to buy the rarity? What happens when you become a dollar collector? First thing you do is you get silver dollars. Maybe they're circulated. You put them in an album. You complete a set. Then you get smarter as you go along, and you start to spend the same amount of money but get much rarer coins. Maybe you'll go to prooflikes. Then after that, maybe you go to varieties. And that's the progression of people who get into Morgan dollars, into collecting. They go from regular circulated coins by date, mint set, into proof likes and then varieties as they progress in the series. So population reports, you should study them. Again, you should look at prices. You should compare them to relative rarity. Okay.
Okay, so there's different types of price guides. Again, there's a wholesale price guides, a coin dealer newsletter, a gray sheet. The Whitman Blue Book is also a wholesale guide, and that's basically, you know, what's a dealer or wholesaler going to pay you for a coin. Whereas retail guides will tell you how much are you going to have to pay to buy a certain coin in the retail market. The Whitman Red Book has been out since 1947. Is the leading retail guide. It's an annual guide. There's more accurate ones that are available today because they're updated more often, like the Corner World price guides, the grading services, all other pricing guides. And then the auction prices realized is not so much a guide, but a very powerful tool for kind of doing a little more thorough advanced due diligence on what something is really worth. What should I really pay for this coin? It can be harder to put that information together, but it tends to be worth it because you really have a good feel for what's this coin actually worth. It gives better results than just looking at a red book that was prepared a year earlier for a more generic price.
Auction prices realized tend to be for higher value coins, maybe several hundred and up, whereas eBay would be a good place to look for coins that are lower value coins.
Right. So yeah, you won't find a $15 coin on Heritage, but you will find plenty of them on eBay, for example. So you have to know where to look for each one. So this much as they have the pop reports, there's also a PCGS price guide, and this kind of shows. You look across the top for the grade. You look at if it's just regular MS, PL, or deep near prooflike. The prooflike only applies for uncirculated grades. So this kind of just basically reads like any other chart you would probably very familiar with the price guide. And one of the interesting things that it shows, though, is that there's some coins, such as the 84cc Morgan dollar here, where an AU coin is an AU coin is valued, $200, and MS64 is $275. This tells you when you're looking at a price guide that while there's some grades that just are not worth buying because there's no bang for the buck in buying a lower graded coin when you can buy one that's only a couple dollars more and it's a nicer coin. I mean, a $75 spread between an AU55 and an MS64. Okay, maybe that's a lot if the coin was $1 in AU55, but it's $200 in AU55. So that's only a 38% markup to go MS64. To go MS64 instead of AU55. So it's a good thing to note in price guides where these prices jump up. Another thing you notice is that there'll be some price where it jumps up dramatically all of a sudden, like right here. So we go from 375 to 750. It doubles from 65 to 66. So that's where you've got this kind of hockey stick where all of a sudden the price starts going way up, and that tells you, okay, do I want that $750 coin? Do I want a $375 coin? That's where you're kind of deciding, where should I buy this coin? But if you're looking at a coin that's priced as an MS66 84cc, it better be a really nice MS66 84cc, better than all of the MS65s that you can find. Because if you can find an MS65 84cc priced as a 65 that looks as nice as some of the 66s, you buy that 65 all day long because that's just as nice of a coin and it costs you half as much.
We call that the critical grade. I think that's an important concept to understand. We're always looking for the critical grade when we buy coins. We want to buy nice PQ coins that are at the critical grade, just below where the big jump is. If you look at the 83S in a PL, it's 1850 and 58, but it jumps to 62. Yeah. It's 62. I'm sorry, and it jumps to 8,563. That's a critical grade. I want to buy that coin. I want to buy a PQ coin. I want to resubmit it in the hope that it goes from 62 to 63. It's got to, look like it's going to do that. And if I had to resubmit it 2 or 3 or 4 times and spend $100 3 times in grading fees, it's worth doing, because all I need is for it to come back one time, and I make a profit of over $6,000 in one shot. So again, critical grade, very important concept, as is relative rarity.
Okay, so the real power with these two tools is using them together. So use the population report together with the price guide. But what that can point out is what coins are generic coins, or widgets, as I know one East Coast dealer likes to call them, that need to be real special to be good buys. So if I go back to the 81S, which is a great type coin, we had one in the grading section that was an MS67, $650 coin, gorgeous coin. If you want just one Morgan dollar for your collection, you want to be a type coin, get a 81S or 82S and 67 that you really like looking at, and that'll the next person to buy will really like looking at. But if you notice here, the population report says there's almost 2,600 of these graded MS67, and if you add up the ones that are graded higher, there's another 500 and there's another 600 or so that are graded higher than that. So maybe it's not that special of a coin in that grade. It's more of a generic coin if there's that many that are graded that high. So you want to make sure that that coin really looks nice compared to other 67s that you will be able to look at when you comparison shopping. Now, if I take a look at a different issue, the same amount of money, an 88.0 and 64 dimple, $600, a little bit less expensive, but check the population, 231. So there's a tenth, less than a tenth of what was graded in 67 for an 81S is graded 64 dimple for 88.0. And if you look at the ones, if you look at the entire population of Deeply Prooflike for 88.0, there's 597 for all of 88.0 compared to 81S, 273,000 81Ss that have been graded. So that $600 price tag here looks like you've got a more special, maybe undervalued coin. Granted, $600, I mean, that's how much it's worth on the open market. So it's not worth any more than what the market perceives an MS67 81S to be worth. But it's a coin that's a little more special. It's a little less generic, scarcer. You show it to somebody and they don't say, "Oh yeah, I've got 6 of those sitting back at the shop. I didn't bother bringing them to the show." This one's a little more rare.
This is what we were talking about before: the supply and demand and buying smart, and that's your cue, John.
Right. So what we do when we're buying is we want to be smart about it. We want to realize that not all coins are the same. Not all third-party graded coins are equivalent. We were talking about grading before. We talked about these for uncirculated coins, these 4 factors of surface preservation, strike, luster, and eye appeal. These four continuous continuums of quality of the coin. Those are distilled down to these 10 discrete numbers. Not all 63s look the same. Not all 65s look the same. You want to be able to cherry pick the quality on this. If you're looking at all these coins that are graded the same, some dealers will have in their cases a stack of coins. They're all the same grade. They made it easy for you to just lay those all on the table and take a look and say, I like the front of this one looks the best, turn it over. If it looks just as good, that's the one you buy. And you bought the top 10% of what he had for sale. There were 10 coins, for example. You want to cherry pick for quality. You want to buy from reputable resources. Also, you don't want to be buying from someone who's not going to accept the return. You don't want to be spending a lot of money on something where you don't know where it came from. If it's especially online resources, like the Facebook, eBay, Craigslist, where there's a lot of counterfeit coins that show up. And you won't have recourse with a lot of these sellers either. So you want to make sure that when you're buying coins, you're gonna get it from a reputable resource who's sourced quality material for you. And as you build up a relationship with the dealer, they'll help you find more stuff that you'll like. And eventually they'll call you and say, I got this thing, this coin I think you'll like for your collection. Give me a call if you want to take a look at it. And you can get networked into some more reliable, reputable resources that way. And the other thing we want to cherry pick for now is, buying smart, is we also want to look at varieties. And we'll talk about that in our next section. And there's a lot of information resources out there for both, looking at quality coins. You can go through heritage archives and take a look at how their pictures look, so you can kind of learn what does a picture of a MS-65 Morgan dollar look like on the heritage site, and then go looking through those 64s and find it looks like a 65. That's another resource you can use creatively to find to be able to cherry pick the quality online even. And then there's other information resources for varieties, for example, we can go into. So varieties, we spent better part of a couple days going through varieties in our class. We passed around probably a couple hundred coins, looking at varieties for a while, and it's an exciting thing to look at. It's just one of the things I got into when I was right around the time the Top 100 book came out in the late 90s. I started getting into looking at Morgan dollar varieties. And there's neat stuff for you to see on a lot of these coins.
Okay, so there are lots of resources for varieties. My quote is, knowledge is king. Once you learn these things, you learn them forever, and you can go out and cherry pick to your heart's desire. You could spend $50, cherry pick a $5,000 coin. Hard to do that in grading these days with so many people competing. You certainly can do it with varieties. I've done it many times. And there are many coins still out there. We talk about books, with internet, software. You can go to dealers and shows, clubs, lots of resources to go out and find varieties, go out and find coins that are undergraded or overgraded. You can find tone coins, pedigreed coins, all sorts of good stuff. It's all out there. Just a matter of turning over rocks and looking. And it's fun to do. Okay, so two important books. One is the big Van encyclopedia. I think I showed you mine is all cut up and filled with information, but this is an important book to get. I don't know, you'd have to search ebay.com. I know Martin Paul is a dealer. You might want to Google Martin Paul in Philadelphia. He's the one who has these books. He sells them. These are the top 100 books. This is a book I wrote with Jeff Oxman in 1997. Little book you could put in your pocket. Copious pictures in the book. We're going to see some. You can find this book discounted on ebay.com. Just search for Top 100, or you can search my name and you'll find it. And this book changed the market. It got everybody focused on the top 100 Morgan dollar varieties, the Van keys. All coins which you can cherry pick at a normal price, and they carry some of them carry huge premiums. Others don't carry as much, but they're all cool to look at, and it's fun to go out and search for them. Okay, other books we talked about, The Wonders of Morgan Dollars. I mentioned that. Leroy Van Allen publishes this book. It's a wonderful guide. I highly recommend it. It talks about all the different things that you can experience. Much of what we'll be talking about on varieties, and what's in the top 100, but all the things that are different than a normal set of dies or a normal die pair. Don't forget, these were made in 1878 and up, and they were doing a lot of stuff by hand. They were experimenting with different ways to manufacture these so that they get a lot of life out of the dies. Dies were breaking left and right until they perfected it. Certainly in 1878, they had some crazy stuff going on. And that brings us to the Eight-Tail Feather book by Jeff Oxman, which is very hard to find right now. But Eight-Tail Feathers, we consider the creme de la creme, the champagne of Morgan dollars. These are the first ones off the line, first 3 weeks of production. And there's so many changes that were made on these dies. Half of them or more are extremely rare. We call them ultra rarities. You find these, again, huge premiums on them. And these are beautiful coins. They were struck a little bit heavier. They tend to not stack the same as normal dollars. They're more high relief. They're beautiful coins. You see a lot of prooflikes, and you see a lot of cameos. Just a wonderful coin to get into. There's only 41 die pairs to finish a collection. which sounds pretty easy, but it's awfully difficult. These first ones off the line are great coins. I highly recommend that area.
So the most famous resource probably for VAM collectors online is VAMworld. VAMworld consists of discussion boards where you can discuss VAMs with other people, buy, sell, and trade VAMs with others, and it's a very, very active discussion board. And then there's the VAMworld Wiki, and the Wiki was originally started in 2006 by Rob Joyce, who was a collector specializing in 1921 D Morgan dollars with big die breaks on them. And he produced a book with a friend of his back in 2005, I think. And after doing that, everybody starts looking for these coins and they're finding more. He says, Rob, here's another one. Rob, here's another one. You need to write in the book. And he says, I don't want to write another book. I'm just going to make a wiki and let you guys update it. And that was the birth of VAMworld. And now VAMworld has probably close to 80 gigabytes of information, upwards of 100,000 images of stuff on it. I know these numbers because I had to migrate it from an old platform to a new platform a couple of years ago, and it took a long time to transfer all that data. But we have, just about everything you want to know about VAMs. You can ask somebody on the forum or look up on VAMworld. So I invite you all to be using those if you aren't already. I'm the administrator of that, so if you sign up for an account, I'll approve you later. And I see Michael's got his hand up.
Yeah, what's a VAM? What's a VAM? VAM.
Oh, you'll get to that in a couple slides, Mike.
Oh, okay.
So to introduce the varieties, there's a lot of series that are collected by variety, and some varieties are common, some are rare. Some are obvious, some are subtle, and some are quite valuable as weathered before. And for silver dollars, they're all cataloged by VAM number, no matter how common, rare, obvious, or subtle they are. They're all cataloged by VAM number. And some are worth really big premiums. Oh, this is Mike's slide. So let him go.
Yeah. So just to get back to VAMs again, just so you know, VAMs stand for Van Allen Malice. The encyclopedia we showed you before was written by Leroy Van Allen and A. George Malice, who identified all the different varieties. John will talk about this in a few minutes, but just so you know, VAM is an acronym. It stands for Van Allen Malice. It's a numbering system. These are some coins that are worth a huge premium. They're in the top 100. I discovered this 8-tail feather AU58. You can buy one for $120. One was sold for $38,100. Nice premium, nice upgrade. If you happen to buy one of these, find one of these. And I've found several of them. They're findable. They're out there. You have a happy day, let me tell you. Another one, the 7/8, an MS62. Common coin is $200. If it's a VAM 44 with a triple die obverse, a 7/8 weak reverse 3-tail feather showing, one is sold for $15,000. That's about the top end of 62. If you find one that's a higher grade, maybe it's a $30,000 coin and you spend $200. So again, you can go down the list. An 1887, the VAM 1B with a die clash E. We'll talk about about that later. Huge premium, $8,000 premium. 86, which is not even in the top 100, VAM 20 repunch date, huge premium. 880 Scarface, I bought one of these for $100 in an old Society of Silver Dollar Collectors auction, and it turned out to be a 63. One sold for $14,764. It's still a very high value coin. I sold a number of these for anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 in lower grades. 99.0 and 65, a micro O, $180 cherry, and one sold for $32,900. And even in the common 1921 and 62, if it's the wide reading variety, infrequent reading, a VAM 44, you can buy one for $20 and sell it for $16.50. So again, just like the critical grades on coins, you can cherry pick coins for grade and upgrade them and make money. You can do the same thing by cherry picking varieties. So it's good to know how to grade. It's good to know varieties. Okay, what's a VAM? So every die pair that Leroy Van Allen observed as he got them in is called the Van Allen-Malus number. He assigned the number sequentially. So if it were a normal die and didn't have anything different about it, and it seemed normal, he would assign Van 1. The next one he found that seemed normal, that had some differences, he would assign Van 2, and he would note the differences. They're all cataloged in his book, in the Comprehensive Catalog and Encyclopedia of Morgan and Peace Dollars. There's over 5,000 different Morgan dollar varieties cataloged. Not all of them are rare. As a matter of fact, few of them are rare. Or actually, they have to be both rare and desirable. Big wow factor when you see it in order for it to be of value. These are discoveries that are being made all the time. Corrections are ongoing. I've discovered way more than 50 different varieties that are in the VAM Hall of Fame, Discovery Hall of Fame. And you could do it too. All you have to do is look and then submit to Leroy. And if it's not on that vamworld.com site, you've got something different. You've got a new discovery and you're in the history books. These are not considered striking errors. They have to be variety errors, differences in the die that are purposely there. Next slide. There are different types of varieties. It can be design hubs, like in 1878. There was several different design hubs. 1921 is a different design hub. Hand engraved dies, lots of that going on in 1878, particularly on the S coins. Over dates, over mint marks, like over S's, over dates, maybe 8/7s, repunch mint marks, die breaks, these are raised metal on the coin, die gouges, die clashes. This is when there's no planchet in between and the dies clash together and impart information from each die on the opposite side. Different dates and mint mark positioning. Not all Morgan dollar dates are in exactly the same place relative to the denticles below it. Sometimes they're near, sometimes they're far, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. And then of course you've got double dies or triple dies. And these are all listed in this encyclopedia. And in the top 100, the ones that are most desirable, the biggest wow factors, and the ones that carry a premium are all listed in that top 100 book.
So why stop at triple dies? It took between 7 and 10 hubbings to completely make a Morgan dollar die. And there could be misregistration between every one of those. So we do have some varieties that actually have sextupling and septupling on the stars and the obverse. And those are pretty cool. And one of those is, at least one of those is in the top 100 also.
1883, sextuple star. Very cool looking coin. 6 stars, one on top of another.
So we talked about how the hub design differences. In 1878, they were in a hurry basically to start making these coins because they had to get 2 million made per month. The design still hadn't been settled completely yet, and as a result, we get to see that there were some minor changes made in the hubs during 1878, and this all represents maybe 6 weeks of work. The very first ones with the letters of liberty, you see a little thin here. Then they made those a little bit fatter, and then they refined them a little bit more, added some lines to the wheat leaves. The shape of Liberty's ear also changed during 1878. And these Roman numerals in the middle are the design hub numbers that Leroy Van Allen uses in his work to basically as a shorthand for telling you which hub design was used on that coin. And the reverse, same thing. They went from 8 tail feathers to 7 tail feathers. Again, since it takes 7 to 10 hubbings to finish a die, if the die wasn't finished being hubbed with the 8 tail feather reverse, by the time they changed the 7 tail feather reverse, they finish hubbing it with the 7 tail feather reverse, and we get what's called the design hub doubling, or the design changes, and that's where our 7/8 tail feathers come from. So you get these extra tail feathers sticking out from the 7 tail feather reverses. And then later they changed the shape of this top arrow and made the eagle's breast rounded, and that's the design that they kind of kept for the next until 1904.
This is a parallel arrow feather. Show them that one.
Right. So yeah, there's PAF here, and again, if the Roman numerals on the obverse, and the reverse uses the letters A, B, C, and then for 1921 D for the major design changes. And you'll hear this parallel arrow feather, the PAF, refers to this top feather here, and slanted arrow feather, SAF, refers to the slanted one at the top of the feathers in the later reverse.
So when you first look at this VAM book, it looks like there's scientific notation. It looks very confusing, and you're not a scientist, so you have to try to figure this out. But it's really simple. He basically gives numbers for the obverses and major hubs, and he gives letters for the reverses. And then he starts to go down each VAM. VAM is a die pair of an obverse and a reverse combination. If there's a different reverse paired with the same obverse, it gets a different VAM number. So again, very simple. It's not complex. It's not scientific notation. And there are copious pictures that show you examples of everything.
And what the grading services will call this reverse is the reverse of 78, and this is the reverse of 79. So for 1878, you have reverse of 78, reverse of 79, and there's also a couple other later dates that have reverse of 78 that's used also. Okay, so what's attribution? Attribution is determining which obverse and which reverse die was used to strike the coin. Now, unlike grading, the first thing I'm going to reach for is probably my 10 power magnifying glass. So we need a good magnification. We need a bright working light, and we have to know what we have to have accurate descriptions of known varieties so that we can really match this up. And it can be very time consuming, especially since there's 5,000 some varieties cataloged. So we have ways of breaking this down and make it a little easier. Okay, if we go back to magnification, this is a picture of my loop. It's a Bausch & Lomb 10X Hastings triplet. Costs you about $35. It's not that expensive. It's the image that you get by looking through it is very sharp from edge to edge. There's other brands of this type of optics. One loop I see people using often that I tell them to throw away is a slightly bigger. Maybe it's the diameter of a quarter or so. It's got 16X stamped on it, and it's kind of cheap. Maybe it's less than $10, but it has a very blurry picture except for the dead center of the optics. It only has 2 cheap lenses in it. You'll miss things and you'll get headaches looking through it long enough. So spend the $35 on a really nice loop. You'll thank yourself, and it'll pay for itself easily. So when I'm attributing coin, instead of going brute force through 5,000 varieties, there's a strategy of what do I go looking for and what things can change. On the obverse of a Morgan dollar, the date position can change. It can move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, up or down, starting in 1884. Before that, it was actually, most of the date was in the hub, so the date didn't really move around at all. I'll look for doubling on the stars, Liberty's profile and Liberty's ear. The date was punched by hand, so that can be repunched. You can see that there's double digits. Some of them or all of them we doubled. Die breaks and gouges can show up on the obverse, and we also look for clashed letters at Liberty's neck or behind the hair V, which is where one of the curls of hair meets up with another one near the field. On the reverse, we look at the mint mark position. Mint marks were always punched by hand. Again, so they can move around and they can be repunched. 1921 is the only date where I had not seen a repunched mint mark. So if you find a 21D or 21S that actually has a repunched mint mark, I'll be very impressed, and that'll be a desirable coin. I look at the hub type. If it's the for 1878, 79S, 80cc, the design hub changed on that. So that reverse of 78, 79. They also changed the hub a little bit between 1900 and 1904, and you start seeing a little bit of the design hub doubling there, which can help you attribute something. Doubling on the legends, the arrows, die breaks, especially on 21D. Hand engraving on 1878, 78S, and 1921 even. And die gouges are also good for things to look at for attributing.
Okay, so we have these important lists that were established in the book, the top 100. We already talked about that, published in 96, 97. Then Jeff Oxman came out with the Hot 50 in 2003. And then also Jeff came out with the Hit List 40 in 2009. So out of 5,000, you have 190 to target to look for. You can carry these books with you. Top 100 you can put in your pocket. The other two are a little bit larger, but you can refer to them. Now you can go online to vanworld.com with your phone and look at pictures. So at a show, you can easily see whether you have the right thing or not. Again, we spend a lot of time in class looking at these so you become familiar with what to look for. Dates that were closely studied. We talked about eight tail feathers, 41 different die pairs. 7/8, 15 different die pairs. 7 tail feathers, a little bit more complicated. 79S reverse of 78, and 79S, they actually produced with the reverse of 78, the parallel arrow feathers coins, which most of the coins of that year were produced with the slanted arrow feathers. Nobody, to my knowledge, has ever put a complete set of these together. Very difficult. People have studied 78Ss, 78CCs, 81Os, 02Os, 04Os, and 21s. And there are studies that are continuing and ongoing. But again, this makes everything a lot easier. You can focus on the important ones, the big wow factors, the ones that carry the premiums. And as you're learning about all of this, it's just a lot of fun. Again, we talked about the top 100, which revolutionized Van Allen Malice variety collecting. The book had come out much earlier. People got into it and then lost interest because there were so many thousands of different varieties to collect. Nobody had the money to collect everything, so they lost interest. When the top 100 came out, we concentrated on the most popular, most interesting, rarest die varieties, that combination, and showed you pictures. You didn't have to learn a lot, just had to look at the picture. If you find a coin and it has the features that are in the pictures, you've made it. You've come up with a coin that has greater value than you're buying. And a lot of people at the time hadn't really looked. And still, there are still a lot of coins that people just don't know and don't look. Even dealers don't know and don't look. It's become a lot more mainstream. The grading services are grading these now. The first set was completed by Mike Andrew in 1998. First set of the top 100. These are some examples, popular examples. The 88O Van 4 hot lips. If you notice on this coin, 2 sets of lips. There's 2 sets of chins, 2 sets of noses. This is the strongest double die obverse in the series and affectionately called hot lips. I think we sold an MS60 for 18,000 or so, PCGS 60 way back when, years ago. Scarface, I told you before, I bought one for 100. It's got a huge die break. We call it a big scar. It goes down the cheek and all the way down into the hair. It's become a very popular coin, a very expensive coin. We saw a 64 that sold for over 8,000. That's the highest grade that is known. If you find one in even a higher grade, who knows what the price of that would be. So these are 2 examples of popular top 100 coins.
You talked about grades that coins appear in. Is it the interesting thing? They're both 88Os, and yet the hot lips is, for all intents and purposes, unknown uncirculated. There is an MS60 dimple, I think. It's actually ex-Leroy Van Allen.
Leroy.
Yeah, it's one of the only, if not the only, MS-graded hot lips. They're not super hard to find in like VG and fine. And on the other hand, the Van 1B Scarface is almost known circulated, almost unknown circulated. So it always shows up like MS62. I've seen one AU coin. It's a really kind of funny looking thing, the way the die kind of buckled and crumbled on that coin when it's AU. But you almost always see these uncirculated. So it just has to do with which coins were released in the circulations and which ones weren't. Which ones got to spend several decades in the vault.
Obviously, that came out of a bag of coins that was sitting at the mint for 100 years or more. So we're looking at some other interesting coins, the Van 44 with triple cotton blossoms and leaves. We call that the king of Morgan dollar varieties. It's got a 7/8 reverse, a weak 7/8 reverse, because only 3 tail feathers are showing. Very high value coin, a $15,000 coin in low-end mint state 62. Next to that, you'll often find 117s, 141s. These are double stars or triples. Are they triple, John, or double? I can't remember.
Yeah, slightly triple.
Triple stars, yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And then next to that, the very rare eight-tailed feather 1411 with what we call wild eye spikes. The only eye spikes like that known on the Morgan Dollar series. Very, very high value coin.
So there's plenty of double dies in top 100. And again, with double dies, we're not talking about machine doubling where you see two images because it got bounced twice on the die when it struck, but actually in the die, you have doubling. The Hot Lips is a Red Book variety. You'll see it in the Red Book, along with the 1901 VAM 3, which is a strong double reverse, also in the Red Book. And there's plenty of other ones, including 1900 VAM 15, which has nice doubling on the obverse stars.
Okay, so you also have overdates. This is a clear 8/7 overdate 80cc. These are not especially rare, but it's dramatic looking. You can see the 7 inside the 8. Also the 80 8/7 VAM 6 with a little spike coming out of the remnant of a 7. And then the 87/6 VAM 2 with the little portion of the 6 coming out of the bottom of the 7. I've cherry picked all these coins. They're out there. You'll find them. Some of these carry huge premiums. For example, the 7/6 has long been known. It's a Red Book coin, and it carries a huge premium. So anytime you find one, you're going to buy it.
And plenty of things going on with mint marks as well, the repunch and over mint marks. The 1882 over S varieties, there's 3 of them, all in the Red Book also, and also 1900 over CC variety has been popular for a very long time. But in the middle, there's a 1895 S over horizontal S. So the S was originally turned 90 degrees when they punched it in the die, and then they screwed that up, had to fix it and punch it the right way. That's one of the top 100 varieties on a bit of a scarcer date. So this is it's probably an AU or BU coin that was photographed here, but this kind of thing you look for in a VF coin. You can still see this little spike on the S in a VF coin.
Okay, so you also have repunch dates and misplaced dates, the 87/0, VAM 2. To the left, lower left of the 7, you can see the remnants of a 7 that was repunched into the coin. That was the first one. The second one was the obvious strong 7. We're also looking at a coin with a letter in identical, the top of an 8 on the 96 VAM 19. And if you look at the 99S VAM 7, you could see at the top the remnants of a 9, another 9. Actually, in both the letters, both the dates, you could see remnants of a 9 repunched in there.
Broken dies are popular in the top 100. Again, the Scarface you see on the right, we talked about that already. There's an 1880p with called a knobbed 8, which is a big die break on top of the 8. And 87 donkey tail with a reverse die break, a big chunk that looks like a tail of the D in dollar on the reverse.
These are very late die states, so imagine a lot of striking. The dies were nearing the end of their life, and chunks of the die came out so that what filled in the planchet was raised marks, like the D in the donkey tail or the spike on the 8. So these are very late die states, highly collectible and neat looking. So we also had clash dies. We spoke about clash dies before. This E actually on the 86-0 VAM 1A is the E from Liberty on the obverse that was clashed into the reverse die when there was no coin in between. The dies clashed together, and the E was a high point, and it imparted information onto the reverse of the die, reverse die. And you can see the 88-0, a different date, but a stronger E and a little bit of another letter. And then on the 91-0, a very strong one. Very cool when you find one of these coins from clash dies. They show up in the same place.
So another more specialized collection to work on then is the 1878 tail feathers. It's a very difficult collection because there's a lot of very rare varieties. Remember in 1878, beginning of the production in March, they were trying to get the design finalized, trying to get dies to last long enough to meet that 2 million per month quota they had. As a result, there's 41 different die pairs. There's one reverse die that was used with 10 different obverses. We call that reverse die the Widowmaker. And many of these varieties are very, very rare because they made several coins and the die broke. Put a new die in, make several coins, die breaks. So they use the coins, they had to, but for our benefit, they're very, very rare. And it's a very challenging collection to put together. So a lot of these reverse dies have hand engraving on the reverses. They actually added some little feathers right here where these arrows are pointing underneath the eagle's wings to fill in the design. These are all touched up by hand. So this gives us a fingerprint of all these reverse dies that were used for the 8 tail feathers. There's many, many rare die mirrors again. And this picture here is of 1878 Vam 9, which was the first Morgan dollar struck. And the first Vam 9, the very first coin struck, is in the Rutherford B. Hayes Museum in Ohio. Even though Hayes vetoed the Bland-Allison Act, he got the first coin. There's 21 different reverse dies. Again, most of them have these hand-engraved feathers I was showing. Some of the reverses are always common, some are always rare, and some are both. So it won't always help you to attribute only the reverse on these. You really have to look at both sides.
Okay, so this is what I call Mr. Happy. If you look on the right, you see one little pin feather coming out. And if you look on the left, you see 3 of them turned up a little bit. I call that Mr. Happy, that reverse, because when I see it, it excites me. I can't wait to turn the coin over to the obverse to see what it was paired with, because there are lots of ultra rarities paired with that reverse. That's why I call it Mr. Happy. If you happen to find one of the ultra rarities, you buy it immediately, and you've immediately made multiples of whatever you spent on that coin. Second one is an A1E reverse. That's paired with 2 obverses. One is relatively common. The other is pretty rare. Vam 15 is the coin, and that's the one you're looking for. On the last one, if you find this A1, we call it an N reverse or an A1N reverse. There's virtually no feather or very tiny little feathers on the right, and 2 little, almost Mr. Happy feathers on the left coming out. That's an ultra rare coin, no matter what it's. I think there are 3 different varieties on that obverse, and it's ultra rare no matter what you do. Just don't find that coin very much. It's a great series. It's not always what you see. Sometimes it's what you don't see. Again, Mr. Happy, A1C reverse. The 1411 is paired with that, a very high valued coin. And one I discovered, it isn't always what you see. Sometimes it's what you don't see. When I looked at that coin, I knew all the different A1C reverses. I didn't know this coin because it had nothing for me to compare it to. I said, that's different. Let me buy it. I bought it, sent it to Leroy. It was blessed as a new variety of 1417. Became the only one known at the time, my discovery, and now there's just very few of those known. So it's not always what you see, it's what you don't see. It's extremely valuable. Okay, we're also talking about provenance coins. These are coins that come from special places like the Government Services Administration or GSA, which has a hard and a soft pack. There's hoards like the Redfield hoard. I was part of the Binion hoard. I looked at those coins. Coins that come from famous collections such as Eliasberg, Norwell, Jack Lee, to name a few. There are many out there. But these are coins that deserve a premium because they're special coins. This is an example of a hard pack, GSA, and a soft pack. There's a 1411 that I own. It's the only one known, probably will always be the only one known. It's a museum piece in a GSA soft pack. You'll see a lot of these hard packs, and these are all premium coins because they're in a provenance holder. Next slide. These are Redfield coins. This is the kind of holder. Levere Redfield from California was a hoarder of coins. He stored coins, bags of coins in his walls. When he died, they discovered all these coins. I think it was Paramount who bought the deal. They certified all these coins by grade, although the grades are a little bit loose in my opinion. But the bottom line is when you see coins in these holders, they're Paramount coins, they're Redfield coins, they deserve a premium.
So one of the last things we talk about in our class is error coins. And errors on Morgan dollars are very rare. It's not like your modern Lincoln cents where you can go buy an off-center, Lincoln cent for $1 or $2 if you want. There's not very many Morgans that are common, Morgan errors that are common. Some strike-through errors, struck through little particles of stuff or struck through grease, minor rim clips, partial collars. Those are the common errors, and even then they're not terribly common. The more dramatic errors that we like to see on the more modern US stuff, like broad strikes, off centers, multiple strikes, die caps, those are extremely rare. There's been people that have gone through bag after bag after bag after bag of open bags of Morgan dollars, hoping to find one error coin and call it empty, because they just didn't exist. The quality control for avoiding these kinds of errors was pretty darn good back in the time. This is a picture of a 21S broad strike. Now, benefit of a broad strike is that it gets you a really sharp strike. So it's fully detailed. And what happens is the collar die doesn't deploy and hold the coin in place and prevent it from spreading out like it's supposed to do when it's struck. So you get this kind of splashed out planchet with the coin struck there. And something like this is about a $700 coin, so it's much more expensive than a modern U.S. broad strike. Off center is even more rare. Hey, Mike, this is last week. I bought a 79p that was 15% off center.
15?
15%, 79p, 15% off center. I bought it last week. It was a Susan B. Anthony 1979p, so I could afford that one.
Yeah, very cool. Wow factor.
Had it been a Morgan dollar, it would have cost me about 100 times what I paid for it. Off-center Morgan dollars, extremely rare, 5-figure coins easily. And they do not come up for sale very often. This one was in a heritage auction a few years ago, I think, and it sold for probably $13,000, $15,000, like this, maybe even more. Even rarer is a die cap. So what happened is that a struck coin stayed in the coining chamber. Another planchet came in, sitting on top of it, and it got stuck to one of the dies and spread out around the die. And this is actually a coin from the Amon Carter collection. And if I'm not mistaken, someone told me that someone once told him to use it in an ashtray because it was shaped like a dish. And this is a 6-figure coin. There's only 2 die caps known for Morgan dollars. This is one, and the other one is a 1903. So Morgan dollar errors, very rare.
Okay, so this is a pattern coin. There were many coins struck each year as patterns that were shown to Congress so that Congress could decide on which design they wanted. When we're in the class, we take you to the museum. We show you a lot of different patterns. This is just one example. It's a shield earring. Beautiful design. You can see the little shield coming off Miss Liberty's ear. These are light proofs. They're deep mirrors, extra specially struck, handled very carefully, shown to Congress. Not a lot of them. They go by rarity. Rarities 4, 5, 6, 7, and even 8 unique. And they're beautiful coins. We're not going to get into a lot of detail, but there are books. For example, Judd and Bowers have books on patterns that you can look at. Very expensive, by the way.
Okay, then the last thing to talk about then is contemporary counterfeits. So the 1896 O, 1900 O, 1902 O, micro O, they're listed in the top 100. They were found to be contemporary counterfeits made in the early 20th century to not to fool collectors, but to be used in commerce. And they were made mostly of sterling silver, and since 2000 or so, at least 25 other die pairs manufactured by the same counterfeiter were discovered. So this counterfeiting operation made a lot of contemporary counterfeits, all of which are very collectible, and almost all of which actually, ironically, sell for more than what the genuine ones were. These, of course, this is a picture of a 1900 O, micro O, band 5. They're typically found in circulated grades because they were meant to circulate, and they circulated and they served their purpose. The silver was priced at a discount from what it cost to make the coins early 20th century. So there was profit to be made in making counterfeit Morgan dollars out of good silver.
So there's lots of modern counterfeits now, mostly Chinese, that are being imported into the U.S., sold to collectors. They're very poor quality, but some of them are so good that they even get past the grading services. They're often the wrong weight, and it's hard to spot these fakes. The grading services most of the time spot the fakes, do a good job. There's also counterfeit holders. So you can have any combination of a counterfeit coin in a real holder, or a real coin in a counterfeit holder, and so on and so forth. You got to be very, very careful. Somebody once came to me with a bust $50 graded mint state, and I looked at the coin and I looked it up online and I said, this is a counterfeit holder. I'm sorry. Where'd you get it? Bought it off eBay. And he had to, luckily, I think he returned the coin and got his money back. But very expensive coin that was an AU58 coin in like a 63 holder. So be careful about counterfeits.
There's a whole class on counterfeit detection that you can take too, I think. So we're not going to attempt to go into that too much in the minute or so we have left. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope you enjoyed this. I encourage everybody that finds this interesting to sign up for the summer seminar in person. We can pass around some coins. We'll go through this information in far more detail than we could today. And have a fun week at Coin Camp with the rest of us. Lions are out there. There's plenty of scholarships available for you. You can apply for those. There's other scholarships for people who aren't such YNs as well for other clubs and stuff. So we encourage you to sign up for that next year and meet us in person and play with some coins for a few days.
I was going to say, more importantly, John, you get to ask us questions up close.
Yeah.
And the very tough questions, we show you as much as we can. We share information, provide lots of tips, provide lots of experience. You want to make money and you want to be an investor and make money, you'll learn how to do that. You want to be a collector and have a great collection, you'll do that. You want to pay the least amount to get great coins, you'll do that. And you'll rub noses with the who's who that attends these seminars. You often see Ken Brissett there, Q. David Bowers. I mean, it's just a fantastic experience. Imagine spending a whole week talking about your favorite subject with your friends at the American Numismatic Association. Colorado Springs is beautiful. Pikes Peak is in the difference. Come on out and spend some time with us. You'll have a great time. Thanks for attending.
Yep.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks John and Michael for your expertise in this subject. I really learned a lot and I hope everybody did as well. Before anybody jumps off, please fill out the survey. I'm going to launch it now. It's just 10 questions. Since we have a few minutes, do you guys want to go through a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go down the line of when they came in. Way more have come in than we'll be able to get through. So like I said earlier, if we can't get to your question, then I will send it to John and Michael and they will answer it and I'll get it back out to everybody. So one of the first ones that came in was best reference book for collecting Morgan dollars.
Single reference book, if you only get, well, that's a tough question because if you only get one, I would start with the Whitman Red book on Morgan dollars. If you're just starting out. And then after that, I would also add the Van book because if you're going to get into the more history and varieties, then I would go to the Van book. But I would start with those two. So I sort of answered the question, I guess.
Yeah, I would also say top 100 next, and then I would say Jerry Picker's Guide after that, because once you learn about Morgans, it applies to every other series of coins. So don't get just one book. One book doesn't answer it all. It's a multitude of books if you really want to get into this and learn it. And it's not hard learning. There's a lot of pictures and it's a lot of fun.
Another one, let me find it here. Best advice for amateur collectors.
I'll take this, John. I think the best advice I can provide is if you like what you're doing, then it's fun. It's not work. And you can have a lot of fun doing this. It can be a hobby. It can be an investment. It can do a whole lot of things for you. It can, be something you would do in your spare time that you enjoy doing. So I would say just get into it, see if you like it. And if you do, don't stop, and you won't stop. you'll get the fever and you'll keep going just like we did.
Is there any source for pricing mint errors?
For mint errors on Morgan dollars, I would just start searching auctions. Stuff like 1921 rim clips. If you search Heritage Archive, you'll find a few of them. I mean, all the significant errors are rare enough where you don't find them very often, but you'll see prices that maybe you see 2 coins that sold in the last 10 years. That will give you some sort of a feel for what Morgan dollar errors sell for. Because they're nowhere near as common as the more modern mint errors.
Let me answer that. 3 sources: Heritage auction prices realized, eBay, and then I would go to somebody like Fred Weinberg, an error specialist, and talk to him because he has a lot of knowledge about errors. Again, errors like regular coins, might have a beautiful error that's an XF40, but one in mint state 62 or 3 might be worth multiples more. So there's not a lot of history because errors are rare. So you want to get as much advice as you can, and a good dealer like Fred Weinberg would provide good advice.
Let's see here. Are new VAMs still being discovered?
Yes, they are not usually as significant as the ones that have been discovered, let's say 10, 20 years ago. But there are still VAMs being discovered. Most of them are very minor. Once in a while, a pretty exciting one will come out. And actually, the Society of Silver Dollar Collectors has been tracking, what's the most exciting one each year, and gives out awards for VAM of the Year, Discovery, for ones that have been really exciting. But there are still VAMs being discovered, and there are still corrections being made to the VAM catalog too. So it's also been discovered now and then that certain entries in the VAM catalog are wrong or duplicates of other ones, and so the information is being refined as well.
It was only a few years ago that doubled reading was discovered on coins. And also only just a few years ago that Dr. Mark Kimpton, who wrote his book on clash dies, discovered an O mint mark on the obverse of a coin. Think about that one. How does an O mint mark from the reverse get to the obverse? Well, it was a die clash. And so, yeah, things are being discovered all the time. The more you get into it, the more you look, the more knowledge you have. Again, sometimes it's not always what you see. It may be what you don't see based on your knowledge. So yeah, they're discovered all the time. Yeah.
We'll do just a few more. Why is the loop the last thing you pick up when grading a coin? I would think it'd be the first.
Okay, so the loop lets you hone in on real fine details. The first thing you want when you're grading a coin is your overall impression. So you want really no magnification. Your first reaction is, how does this coin look? Do I like it? Do I not like it? If it's circulated, I want to see the whole coin. I don't want to use a loop until there's something that's a real small area of the coin I want to look at. Like if I'm looking at something for maybe authentication, like altered data at a mint mark. For grading, I start big and then I go in small.
I would say grade like
I don't need to go small.
Sorry, yeah. Grade like the graders. They use their eyes. They don't use a loop only when they have to hone in on something. But again, they tilt and twirl under a light radically. I turn the coin directly over to make sure it's lined up right and there's not a rotated dies situation. It's the first thing I do. Then I go back and I look at the coin, and then I'll go around the coin counterclockwise and look at details. And if I need to hone in on something, then I'll take my loop out. If I need to see if it's a variety, I'll take my loop out. But first, you want to use your eyes under a good light. And again, it takes a lot of experience. We do a lot of practice in class.
And another thing is, if you start with the loop, the first thing you're doing when you're looking to see what's wrong with this coin when you pull up that loop, because that's the first thing you're going to see is all these defects magnified 10 times or even more if you've got a really powerful loop. And that's not what you want to see first. What you want to see first is the overall impression. So if you start with your loop, you're never going to buy anything because every coin is going to look ugly when you magnify nothing but the defects are really big.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
Comment on the use of jewel luster on circulated coins and PVC contamination.
I'll do that. So for PVC, you would use acetone as a dip and never use anything harsh on the coin. I use a Q-tip very lightly to coax the PVC off the greenish slime or the greenish thing. Sometimes that slime has been on so long it actually digs into and affects the surface of the coin. Can't get that out. But for taking like toning off, light toning, yeah, you use jewel luster, a quick dip, maybe as much as 30 seconds to a minute. I wouldn't go much longer. Sometimes you can use a little agitation. I have a little plastic basket that I use and I agitate a little. I also have an ultrasound. Sometimes I'll put it in there if it needs a little bit more coaxing. But then the key is to wash that jewel luster off, to put it under the faucet for 30 seconds to a minute, both sides, to get all the acid off. Jewel luster is mild acid. Thiourea is what it's composed of. And then I neutralize it in the baking soda solution just to neutralize it so it doesn't react after that. And that'll take toning off. I wouldn't use it for circulated coins. Coin is circulated. I mean, it's just going to make it look ugly. If it's mint state and it's got ugly toning and you want to get the toning off, that's another thing. But I hardly would ever use it for circulated coins. What about you, John?
Yeah, I would avoid it for circulated coins. It'll just make it'll make it look this flat, artificially polished looking, not natural. You won't like the result. It's circulated. It's supposed to be a dirty. Circulated coin is supposed to be dirty. They have history to them.
Yeah, original. That's the key. I mean, if it's ugly original, maybe you do use it. You know, but it's a question of judgment. It's a question of having experience.
Right.
Maybe you get an opinion from an experienced dealer. Maybe you should practice on a lot of cheap coins before you even attempt it. Otherwise, you could destroy a high-value coin.
And with circulated coins, sometimes what's causing it to need what's causing you to think it needs cleaning is the fact that there's some goo or gunk stuck to it. So some acetone that might soften that up or take that off, that might be all it needs to make it look better, because there was some dirt or something from whatever 100 years of history it has on got stuck there. And
don't forget hot water and soap either.
Yeah, right. Real mild detergent.
But avoid anything that grits the surface at all. Anything.
Nothing abrasive.
Put hairlines in the coin and lower the value of the coin.
Well, again, thank you so much, John and Michael, for your time for all of this. We really appreciate it. We have a certificate coming to you in the mail very soon. If we didn't get to your question today, I will be sending these to the instructors to answer, and we'll get them out to everybody. The next presentation that we have is going to be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. That's going to be Mexican Voices in the Metal and Paper by Ricardo. If you haven't signed up for that, I did put the link in the chat for all of the classes. That one still has space, so feel free to sign up for that one. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.